Alright, good morning ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my official review of this beautiful, beautiful 2021 Mercedes E63 wagon, estate, or saloon, depending on what country you live in. I know I got a few friends at different countries that call these different things, but I'm in America. We call this a wagon. We don't get a lot of wagons, let alone performance wagons, so when we do, they're really, really special, and I'm very lucky to have this car on the channel today. And I got a lot to say about this, so this one's going to be a fun review, and I'm very excited for it. Still haven't really pushed the car too hard yet. As you can see though, it's already building up some brake dust, which is why I wanted to do the exterior review sooner rather than later, because it's not going to look as pretty once all that brake dust hits. You know, these German cars, they always do that. Alright, so before we get to the crazy driving, let's get a little exterior interior review going. So, alright, so like I said, it's a 2021. For those of you who are Mercedes heads, that means it's a W213 chassis. And it's the 63, which means we get the 4-liter twin-turbo V8, making about 600 horsepower and I think like 630 torque. Big steel brakes up front. As you can see, you get the AMG performance brakes. Carbon over here, carbon on the interior as well. Little carbon on the diffuser. The spec is absolutely phenomenal on this car. He made all the right choices. So the exterior is this beautiful, beautiful satin gray color, and then it's called Designo Celente. Anyways, I was saying, it's called Designo Selenite Gray Magno, and it's a beautiful, beautiful color. He got the matte black rims with the red brakes. Great color combo, very low-key, very understated, with the tinted windows especially. Looks super, super aggressive. And this doesn't really have to do anything with the spec necessarily, but he got the digital plate as well, which I think ties into the whole super sleeper family businessman kind of vibe. And it's just, it looks so darn good. I'm a big fan. Alright, let's pull up to the interior. Yellow stitching on the seats, AMG seats, but they're still comfortable as hell. Carbon fiber all in around here. We're going to be spending a little bit of a minute on the interior, so let me just hop in for a quick second. Alright, so Mercedes, when it comes to interior flow, is king. I mean, it's all just super, like, seamless. I mean, obviously you can see the seams, but, like, the flow is very nice, very pleasant, pleasing to the eye. Also, that's pretty nice. Let me put the power on real quick, and you can see I want to touch on some things. So right now I'm in the super sport mode, so it just focuses on the RPM, speed, G-force right there. You could switch all of that to a bunch of different things. Heads up display, I think you can see it. I hope you can see it. Try to zoom in. Really, really good heads up display. A lot of cars I go in have kind of a wonky one. This one's really responsive and really, really accurate, so I'm a big fan of it. It's going to help me later when I'm going through the corners at speeds, trying to, you know, change my gears and whatnot. So I have it on the super sport setting right now, and you can change all the displays for this. So here, I'll show you a couple of them. So that's speed, time, trip, another trip one, gas, a couple other things, and then this one you can change as well. I could spend a whole hour doing this, but the main point is you can customize the absolute heck out of it, which is cool. I have it on all the sporty settings obviously right now. That's going to be fun later. More to come. And then the heads-up display, which I hope you can see, but I'm not 100% sure. It's like right around there. So you can actually customize that as well. I also have that on the sportiest settings, so that's going to be my gear, speed, and RPMs. That's going to help me for when I'm going through the twisties and I don't want to, you know, have to always worry about looking down. Normally on the interiors, I'm not a big fan of the whole iPad thing. However, this one kind of gets a pass for me. I'm not going to lie. The touchscreen is very, like, it's very good, very responsive, but not overly sensitive. Steering wheel design is immaculate. Has a really nice concave in it. Really, really good gripping right here, right here. So when I'm going through the corners later, that's going to be really helpful. This is nice, being able to just change all your settings on the fly. You can go into individual mode as well. And on top of that, if you want to just customize individual things, so right now I have the exhaust and the traction up, but I could change it. That'll be the transmission, auto stop start, which I'll actually turn off. Makes it super easy to adjust your settings on the fly, and I'm a big, big fan of that. So while I do like most of the steering wheel design, especially this Alcantara bit right here, one thing I'm actually not really a fan of is these very touch sensitive buttons. For me personally, it hasn't been a problem yet in this car, but I can imagine if you're trying to really work that steering wheel, accidentally pressing buttons, bringing stuff up might get annoying. I've had that problem in a couple other cars that have it. But like I said, it hasn't really been a problem with this one. As you can see, my thumb position is very, very nice and tight in there. So you don't actually get a lot of overlay over here. So Like I said, hasn't been a problem yet, but I could see it being a problem at some point. And then while we're talking about the interior, the nice yellow stitching, and these seats are something else. Very, very comfortable. Obviously, it's a Mercedes and an E-Class, so it's the higher luxury comfort package. But these seats really do lock you in place. There's Alcantara on them to help with that. And these parts actually are active side bolsters, so when you turn the wheel, if I turn the wheel to the left, the one on the right will push in to hug you. I would love to show you guys how it works in action, but I don't think it's going to come across on camera very well. But you can feel it, and in my previous video with the photo shoot of this car, the ride-alongs, you'll definitely notice it because of the passengers who aren't used to it are going to feel it. So, but yeah, I think that's just about it for the interior and the exterior. So now it's time to drive. I will cut to that in a minute. Catch you guys later. Peace out. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we have now made it to the driving portion of this review. I'm very excited to see what this thing can do. As always, I'm not full sending it. I'm going to do some spirited driving, but I'm not going to, I'm not a race car driver. I'm not going to be giving it 100% through these corners. I'm just going to be pushing it a little bit just to get a feel for the car and see what it can do. I'm going to get it all into sport mode, and as always, the tires, the diffs, the oil, all the temperatures are good and ready to go. As you can tell by all the rocks kicking out, these tires are all warmed up. So, as soon as I make this turn, we will get started. Alright, let's go, guys. Alright, so 600 horsepower, twin turbo V8. So, this thing's pretty freaking fast. It can freaking fly, let me tell you. I love the blow-off sound, too. Super great throttle response too. With turbo cars, I always worry about turbo lag, especially coming out of a corner. And this does have a little bit, but it gains boost pretty quickly, and then you can get right back on the throttle. As you guys know, I like to say, an engine, no matter how powerful it is only as good as the transmission. And this one is really, really good. It's really, really fast, but it's also really, really smooth because it is a Mercedes at the end of the day. As much as I do like the transmission, the paddle feedback is honestly not my favorite. There's not a lot of really pull, and there's not a nice solid click. So there's been a couple times where I did miss shift on accident, but not all cars can be perfect. Honestly, that paddle feedback might be the only thing I can really complain about with this car. At the end of the day, it's really not that bad once you just get the muscle memory down. Because the way this thing can just, handle is insane. Brake really hard, downshift, hit the corner, into the apex, go. So mind-boggling to me how well this car can handle, especially for the size. That's the biggest thing. It's not like it's handling better than a supercar, but for the size, it really should not be handling this good. Alrighty, guys, I think that's going to just about do it for the driving portion of this video. We'll cut to my final thoughts in a second. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the final portion of this review, and I have a lot to say, so if you got a time, I would recommend listening, because I had a lot of expectations going into this video of how this car was going to handle, and it blew it out of the water by miles. So I said it earlier when I was driving, I'm pretty sure. It's hard to remember because I'm trying to focus on so many things at the same time, but this car, for how big it is, it should not handle as well as it does. And I'm not saying it handles as good as a Giulia Quadrifoglio, for example. If you put them on the track, obviously the Giulia would beat it because it's lighter, more agile, stuff like that. But I think the Giulia owner would be very surprised at how close this thing is keeping up. just to reiterate, this thing is over 4,700 pounds and over 16 feet long. To put that into perspective, that is longer than an Aventador and heavier than a Dodge Challenger Hellcat. And absolutely mind-blowing performance. The center of gravity feels so low. Even on the stock tires, this thing is just stuck to the road. I was taking corners at probably 100, 110 miles an hour before I felt any slippage, and even then I really didn't feel much. It's just mind-boggling how well this car handled. I was pulling 1G in the corner almost. The turns in that particular canyon aren't very sharp, so it's hard to pull some harder Gs, and they're not banked either. But I know for a fact I cleared 0.8 Gs lateral, and that's just absolutely ridiculous. I know for a fact when I started the interior review, I was worried about these buttons being an issue. With the way my hand was positioned, I wasn't even grazing them. It wasn't an issue. They weren't getting in the way at all. I've had that problem in some other cars that I've driven that have those really sensitive touch buttons that aren't actually buttons, they just go off your finger. Wasn't an issue at all. The heads-up display, try to show it again, was absolutely phenomenal. It was super pronounced. It doesn't come across on camera very well, but it is really, really big and it's really pronounced. And let's see if I can show how accurate it is when I rev it. Yeah, you see it go up a little bit. Super accurate, was so helpful when I was going into the corners. Oh my goodness. I didn't have to look down. I could really focus on driving. Absolutely insane. Yeah, just to reiterate, I was expecting this car to handle a lot worse, and the only two bad things I could really say about the car, I didn't like the paddle feedback. It's very, as you can see right here, it's not very responsive, and it doesn't have like a really like firm click. It's not as bad as I originally thought it was going to be, but it's still, I like it to have a really firm, like, I like to have confidence in knowing I'm pressing the shift button. And the only other thing was there was a little bit of turbo lag, but once it hit boost, it didn't just like slingshot. It gradually kicked up all the power, which I really liked. I don't like when it just snaps the power on like that. It makes it really easy to lose control. This car managed the power very well when I got back on the throttle. You know, I was worried about the brake dust earlier, but these brakes were freaking insane. I didn't hit more than 30% power, and it felt like if you were to slam on the brakes in a normal car and come to a dead stop, and I was only at 30%. That's really all I have to say. The only other slightly bad thing, and this is just a Mercedes AMG thing, the engine doesn't, okay, so I don't want to say it sounds bad, but when you're actually giving it, it doesn't have like a super gnarly tone. Like, you know, when you hear a Ferrari roll through the rev range, you hear the changes in tone as it goes up and up and up. Whereas this one, it does sound good, don't get me wrong. You just kind of hear the low grumble the whole time. And that's just a personal preference for me. I'm not trying to talk shit on the car. I just personally like to hear like the different noises as a car goes through the rev range, like in a GT3 or something. But if those are the only two things I can really say that are bad, and even then it wasn't really that bad about the car, I mean, this thing is just mind-blowing. I really wish it came across on video just how good it handled, because I know when I edit this later, it's not going to look as fast as it was or as fast as it felt. It is absolutely insane. But that's going to do it for my final thoughts on the car. It's really insane. Before though I end the video, I want to give a massive shout out to Ankit, also known as AMG Wagon, down on Instagram. I'll throw his link up right there, and I'll throw it in the description down below. It was an absolute pleasure to drive your car, and I really appreciate you letting me have as much fun as I did. Obviously, you guys watching don't know this, but he gave me full authority to just send it, push the limits, and have fun, and I got to do all that. And you can't tell by how excited I still am. I mean, it's been 20 minutes since I left the canyon, and you can tell how animated I still am, even after a long day. This car was absolutely insane. I really wish I could get it again so I could take more people for a ride, especially people that know like about how cars handle, because I think this would really surprise them on just how good it was. And also on top of that, all that performance, right? 4 seats, plenty of space, comfortable when it needs to be, good gas mileage. It is the ultimate daily driving dad family track comfort monster. It's a lot, I know, but that's the only way I can describe this. This thing is, it's ridiculous. But thank you again, my man, for letting me use your car and having as much fun with it as I did. I hope you liked the videos and the pictures, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.